There is something happening to you every single night that you have never truly been told about. Not because the information doesn't exist, not because science hasn't found it, but because what sleep actually is, what is truly, mechanically, cosmically occurring the moment your conscious mind releases its grip, is so far beneath the surface explanation you were given that most people never think to look for it. You were told sleep is rest, recovery, the body's maintenance cycle, the brain taking out its trash, consolidating memories, running its nightly defragmentation. And all of that is true. All of that is real. But here's what no one told you. That's the surface. That's the thinnest, outermost layer of what is actually occurring when you close your eyes and disappear from the waking world. Beneath the rest, there is a rewiring. Beneath the rewiring, there is a field. Beneath the field, there is something the ancient ones knew and the quantum physicists have now confirmed. Something so fundamental to the nature of consciousness and reality that once you understand it, once you feel it land in your body as truth, you will never be able to lie down at night the same way again. You think you stop watching when you fall asleep. You don't. Something in you stays awake. Something in you remains present, observing, reorganizing, collapsing the patterns you've been too distracted to see during the day. Science has a name for what happens in that space, but the name they gave it buried the truth. It reduced something vast to something manageable. It handed you a surface and called it the whole thing. Tonight, we go beneath the surface. Tonight, we go down through every layer, through the neuroscience that most people never get past, through the quantum mechanics that the neuroscience is sitting on top of, through the ancient wisdom traditions that mapped this hidden territory thousands of years before any laboratory existed. And finally, through to the core, the experiential truth at the center of all of it that has been waiting for your awareness to arrive. What you find beneath the explanation you were given about sleep will not just change how you understand the night, it will change how you understand yourself. What you are capable of, and what has been happening to you every single night of your entire life without your conscious awareness. The veil between you and this deeper understanding is not thick, it is not impenetrable, it is a membrane, and it dissolves the moment you're willing to look. Let's begin. Start with what you think you know. Start with the surface. Sleep, as you have been taught to understand it, is biological necessity. Humans spend approximately 1/3 of their lives unconscious, and for most of scientific history, this was considered something of an embarrassing inefficiency. The early mechanistic view of the body as machine, found sleep deeply inconvenient. Machines don't need to stop. Machines run continuously until they break. So what was this strange mandatory shutdown doing in an otherwise functional biological system? The surface answer that emerged from decades of sleep research goes something like this. The brain needs to consolidate memories, moving information from short-term hippocampal storage into long-term cortical networks. The body needs to repair tissue, regulate hormones, clear metabolic waste. The glymphatic system, the brain's waste clearance mechanism, is nearly 10 times more active during sleep than during waking hours, flushing out toxic proteins, including the amyloid plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. Growth hormone is released. The immune system performs critical regulatory functions. Emotional memories are processed and integrated. The brain essentially sorts through the day's experiences, decides what to keep, what to strengthen, what to let fade, and files everything accordingly. This is the surface explanation. This is the layer most people receive and accept as complete. And here's the first thing you need to understand about that surface explanation. It is not wrong, it is just not deep enough. Because here is what the surface explanation doesn't tell you. It doesn't tell you what is actually happening at the level of consciousness during sleep. It describes the biological mechanics, the plumbing, the filing, the maintenance, but it says almost nothing about what the mind is doing when it is no longer constrained by the waking state. It describes the container. It says almost nothing about what is contained. And this is where the first veil lifts. Peel back the biological maintenance explanation and look at what's underneath. What you find is this. Sleep is not just a passive state of reduced consciousness. Sleep is an active state of altered consciousness, a state in which the brain moves through radically different modes of processing that are not available to it during ordinary waking awareness. And these modes of processing are not peripheral to who you are. They are not background operations running while the real you rests. They are in many ways more fundamental to the formation of your identity, your beliefs, your emotional reality, and your capacity to experience the world than anything that happens while you are awake. Look closer. When you first fall asleep, you enter what is called stage 1, the hypnagogic state, the threshold between waking and sleeping. Your brain waves, which during alert waking consciousness oscillate at high-frequency beta waves, roughly 13 to 30 cycles per second, begin to slow. They drop into alpha waves, the state associated with relaxed, unfocused awareness. 8 to 12 cycles per second, the same state you enter during meditation. The same state that occurs in the moments just before creative insight arrives. The same state that ancient traditions described as the gateway to deeper knowing. And here, at this threshold, something remarkable begins to happen. The critical faculty, the part of your mind that evaluates, judges, filters, and decides what is real and what is not, begins to relax its grip. The gatekeeper loosens. The border between what you consciously accept as true and what can enter the deeper layers of your mind becomes permeable. This is not metaphor. This is measurable neurological fact. In this hypnagogic threshold state, the brain becomes what researchers describe as hyper-associative, making connections between concepts, memories, emotions, and sensory experiences that the logical waking mind would never permit. This is why the images and thoughts that arise in that falling asleep space feel so strange and yet so meaningful. They are not random, not even close. They are the mind operating without the filter of ordinary rational consciousness, making connections at a depth the surface mind cannot reach. But there is a layer beneath even this. As sleep deepens, you move through stage 2 and into stages 3 and 4, what is called slow wave sleep or deep sleep. Here the brain waves slow dramatically down to delta waves, half a cycle to 4 cycles per second. This is the deepest biological sleep state. And what is happening here at this level of deep brainwave slowing is something that the surface explanation of sleep almost never addresses. In deep slow wave sleep, the brain enters a state of massive neural synchronization. Neurons across vast regions of the brain begin firing in coordinated waves, slow rolling oscillations that sweep across the cortex like tides. And these synchronized waves are doing something extraordinary. They are literally restructuring the neural architecture of who you are. Not metaphorically, literally. The synaptic connections that were strengthened by the day's experiences are being selectively reinforced. The connections that were not used are being pruned. The emotional charge attached to memories is being modulated. The events retained, but their emotional intensity recalibrated. And crucially, the deep patterns, the habitual neural pathways that determine how you automatically interpret experience, how you feel about yourself, what you believe is possible, these are being reinforced or weakened based on what the sleeping brain decides to consolidate. You are being rewritten every night, not in a vague inspirational sense, in a literal neurological sense. The person who wakes up in the morning is not the same neural configuration that went to sleep. The weights of thousands of synaptic connections have been adjusted. Some beliefs are slightly stronger. Some fears are slightly quieter. Some capacities have been incrementally reinforced. Some limitations have been marginally loosened. The question is, and this is where the real depth begins, is what determines the direction of that rewriting. Because here is what the surface explanation still doesn't tell you. It tells you that the brain rewires during sleep. It doesn't tell you that the content of that rewiring, the direction, the quality, the nature of what gets strengthened and what gets released is profoundly influenced by the state of consciousness you carry into sleep, by the quality of awareness present at the threshold, by what the observer in you is doing as the gates open. And this is where we need to go much deeper. If this is landing for you, if something in you is recognizing what is being pointed at, like this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next layer of what we are uncovering together. Let's talk about what is actually happening in the brain during the most mysterious phase of sleep. The phase that has fascinated researchers, philosophers, and mystics for as long as human beings have been paying attention to the night. REM sleep, rapid eye movement sleep, the dream state. On the surface, REM sleep looks like this. The body becomes temporarily paralyzed. The brainstem sends signals that essentially disconnect the motor cortex from the muscles, preventing you from physically acting out your dreams. The eyes move rapidly beneath closed lids. Brain activity surges to levels nearly indistinguishable from waking consciousness, and the mind begins to generate experience. Vivid, emotionally saturated, narratively complex experience from the inside out with no external sensory input required. The surface explanation of what REM sleep is for focuses primarily on emotional memory processing and creative problem solving. And there is substantial evidence for both. Research at major sleep laboratories has shown that REM sleep specifically strips the emotional charge from difficult memories. You remember what happened, but the raw pain of it is softened, integrated, made bearable. This is why sleep is essential for emotional resilience. This is why sleep deprivation is so closely linked to anxiety, depression, and emotional dysregulation. The nightly emotional processing that REM sleep performs is not optional background work. It is fundamental to your capacity to function as a psychologically coherent human being. And the creative problem-solving function of REM sleep is equally well documented. The famous examples are everywhere. Kekule's discovery of the benzene ring came from a dream of a snake eating its own tail. Paul McCartney woke with the melody of "Yesterday Fully Formed from a Dream" Dmitri Mendeleev saw the periodic table arranged in a dream. Thomas Edison famously napped while holding steel balls in his hands. The moment he drifted into sleep, the balls would drop and wake him so he could capture the hypnagogic imagery before it faded. He called this deliberate threshold crossing his most productive creative practice. But here is what the surface explanation of REM sleep doesn't tell you. It doesn't tell you what the dreaming mind actually is. Because here is the thing that modern neuroscience has quietly confirmed and almost no one is talking about in plain language. The dreaming brain is not a degraded version of the waking brain running on less input. The dreaming brain is a fundamentally different mode of consciousness, one that operates by entirely different rules with access to entirely different capacities, processing reality through an entirely different architecture. In the dreaming state, the prefrontal cortex, the seat of rational, linear, logical, self-monitoring consciousness, is significantly deactivated. The part of you that says, "That's not possible, that's not how things work, that doesn't make sense," that part goes quiet. And what becomes active instead is a network of brain regions associated with emotion, memory, self-referential processing, and what researchers call the default mode network. The same network that activates during deep meditation, during states of creative flow, during moments of profound insight and self-understanding. The dreaming mind is not irrational. It is differently rational. It processes reality through pattern recognition, symbolic association, emotional resonance, and direct experiential knowing, rather than through logical, sequential analysis. It is, in a very real sense, the mind operating closer to its own nature, without the overlay of the conditioned, socially constructed, linguistically mediated waking self. And this is where something extraordinary becomes visible. Because if the dreaming mind is operating without the filter of the conditioned self, without the constant editorial oversight of the prefrontal cortex, then what the dreaming mind has access to is the deeper structure of your reality. The patterns beneath the patterns, the beliefs beneath the beliefs, the self beneath the self-concept. And what the dreaming mind does with that access every single night is not just process and file. It is actively constructing the reality you will wake up into. Pause here. Before we go to the next layer, I want you to do something. Not think about something. Do something. Close your eyes for a moment if you can, and simply notice, without interpreting, without analyzing, without immediately explaining, what happens in your body when you receive this. The idea that something in you is awake and watching even when your conscious mind is not. Don't rush to a conclusion. Don't immediately file it under what you already believe. Just watch what arises. Watch the sensation. Watch the recognition or the resistance or the strange feeling that you already knew this and have been waiting for someone to say it out loud. Watch that. That watching, that noticing without immediately collapsing it into explanation, that is the observer state. And that is precisely the state that determines what happens to you every single night. Now let's go deeper, because this is where the quantum mechanics comes in. And I want you to understand clearly what I am about to tell you. This is not metaphor. It is not poetic language borrowed from physics to make spiritual ideas sound scientific. What quantum mechanics has discovered about the nature of reality at the subatomic level is so radical, so completely at odds with the surface understanding of what physical reality is, that the implications have barely begun to be absorbed by the culture at large. And those implications are directly, precisely, mechanically relevant to what is happening during sleep. Here's what quantum mechanics found beneath the surface of the physical world. At the quantum level, the level of electrons, photons, subatomic particles, reality does not exist as fixed, determined, specific things before they are observed. It exists as probability fields, waves of potential, superpositions of multiple possible states simultaneously. The electron is not in a specific location, spinning in a specific direction before you measure it. It exists as a probability distribution across multiple possible locations and states at once. And then something happens, something that should have permanently disrupted the way we think about reality, but somehow got quietly filed away in the specialist literature and never fully surfaced into ordinary understanding. The act of observation collapses the probability wave. The moment a measuring device, any interaction that constitutes a measurement, engages with the quantum system, the superposition collapses. The multiple possible states resolve into one actual state. The wave of potential becomes a particle of fact. Observation is not passive. Observation is not neutral. Observation is not the innocent act of a consciousness looking at a reality that was already there. Observation is the act that makes reality specific. Observation collapses possibility into fact. That's not belief. That's quantum mechanics. Now here's where most explanations stop. They describe the double-slit experiment. They describe wave-particle duality. They describe quantum superposition. And then they say something like, of course this only applies at the quantum level. At the macro level, the level of tables and chairs and human bodies, classical physics takes over and quantum effects average out. And that is true, partially. At the level of large-scale physical objects, quantum effects do average out. The table does not exist in superposition. But here's what that explanation leaves out. Your brain does not operate at the level of tables and chairs. Your brain operates at the level of neurons, synapses, ion channels, and molecular interactions. And there is growing evidence, not fringe evidence, not speculative evidence, but peer-reviewed, measurable evidence, that quantum effects play a functional role in neural processing. That the brain is not simply a classical computing system running electrochemical signals. That at the level where consciousness actually arises, quantum mechanics is not irrelevant. It is potentially foundational. Physicist Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff proposed what they called orchestrated objective reduction. The idea that quantum computations in microtubules within neurons are fundamental to consciousness itself. That the collapse of quantum superpositions in these microtubule structures is not just a side effect of brain activity, but is the actual mechanism by which subjective conscious experience arises. This is controversial. It is not settled science, but it is serious science taken seriously by serious physicists and neuroscientists. And whether or not the specific Penrose-Hameroff mechanism is correct, the broader principle it points toward is increasingly difficult to dismiss. Consciousness and quantum mechanics are not separate domains. They are not parallel tracks that never intersect. The relationship between the observer and the observed, between awareness and the physical reality it encounters, may be far more fundamental, far more participatory, far more creative than the surface explanation of reality has ever acknowledged. Look closer. Because here is what this means for sleep. During waking consciousness, your brain is operating under the heavy influence of the prefrontal cortex, the region associated with classical, logical, linear processing. The region that imposes order, that enforces the known patterns, that filters experience through the established architecture of the self-concept. In this state, the quantum openness of neural processing is significantly constrained by the classical overlay of conditioned identity. But during sleep, during the hypnagogic threshold, during deep, slow wave sleep, during REM, that classical overlay relaxes. The prefrontal filter goes quiet. The critical faculty that imposes the known patterns loosens its grip. And what opens up in that relaxation is something that the surface explanation of sleep has never adequately addressed. The quantum openness of the sleeping brain. The possibility space that is available to neural processing when the classical filter of conditioned identity is not actively suppressing it. In sleep, your brain is not just processing and filing what already happened. In sleep, your brain is operating in a state of expanded quantum possibility, a state in which the patterns that have been running your waking life are not fixed, not determined, not locked in. They are open. They are in superposition. And the quality of observation, the frequency and nature of the awareness present at the threshold, influences which possibilities collapse into the actual patterns you wake up carrying. This is why what you carry into sleep matters so profoundly. Not as a vague motivational principle, not as a feel-good suggestion to think positive thoughts before bed, as a quantum mechanical reality. The state of the observer at the threshold of sleep influences the direction in which quantum possibilities collapse in the sleeping brain. The awareness you bring to the edge of consciousness is not passive. It is participatory. It is creative. It is, in the most literal sense available to us, the force that determines which version of your neural reality gets consolidated through the night. Now watch what happens when we let this land. If this is true, if the sleeping brain is operating in a state of expanded quantum possibility, and if the quality of awareness at the threshold influences the direction of that possibility's collapse, then the most important moment of your day is not the morning. It is not the meditation session. It is not the moment of intention setting or visualization or affirmation. It is the moment just before you fall asleep, that liminal space, that threshold, that hypnagogic edge where the gatekeeper loosens and the deeper mind opens. That moment is a quantum event horizon. And most people cross it completely unconsciously, carrying the residue of the day's anxieties, the unprocessed emotional charge of every small frustration and worry and regret, the habitual thought loops that have been running since morning. And they feed all of that into the most neuroplastic, most quantum open, most creatively powerful state their brain will enter in any given 24-hour period. And then they wonder why they wake up feeling the same, why the patterns persist, why the beliefs that limit them seem so immovable, why the life they want to be living feels perpetually just out of reach. Here's what no one tells you about observation. You never stop being an observer, not even in sleep. The question is never whether you're observing. The question is always what quality of observation you are bringing. What frequency of awareness is present at the threshold. What the watcher in you is watching as the gates open. Let me show you something. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman named Mira who had spent 15 years trying to change a single pattern in her life. The pattern was this: she would begin things brilliantly and abandon them before completion. Projects, relationships, creative endeavors, businesses. She would arrive with full commitment and genuine passion, and then at some point, always before the finish line, always before the thing became real, she would find a reason to stop. An obstacle that seemed insurmountable. A doubt that seemed definitive. A distraction that seemed more important. She had tried everything the surface world offered. Therapy, accountability systems, habit tracking, motivational frameworks. She understood the pattern intellectually. She could describe it with clinical precision. She knew it had something to do with fear of completion, fear of being seen, possibly some early experience that had taught her that finishing things was dangerous in some way she couldn't quite articulate. She understood it, and she kept repeating it. One night, exhausted and frustrated after abandoning yet another project she had genuinely loved, she lay down to sleep with a different quality of attention than she usually brought to the threshold. Not a different thought, not a different affirmation, a different quality of watching. Instead of collapsing into the familiar thought loops, the self-criticism, the analysis, the planning of how she would do better next time, she simply watched. She watched the feeling in her chest that arose when she thought about what she had abandoned. She didn't interpret it. She didn't explain it. She didn't try to fix it or release it or transform it. She simply held it in the field of her awareness. She watched it the way you watch a fire, with full attention without touching it. And as she held it in that quality of watching, something happened that she had not expected. The feeling began to change, not because she did anything, not because she applied a technique or invoked a principle or repeated a phrase, but because the quality of observation itself, the clear, non-reactive, non-interpretive watching, was doing something to the pattern, the way sunlight does something to ice, not by force, by presence, in that hypnagogic threshold, in that space where the gatekeeper loosens and the deeper mind opens. She watched the feeling all the way down to what was beneath it. And beneath the fear of completion, beneath the pattern of abandonment, she found something she had never seen before because she had never looked that far. She found a belief, not a thought, not an opinion, a deep, structural, operating belief that had been running her reality for 15 years without her conscious awareness. The belief was this: finishing things makes you visible, and being visible makes you a target. She had never seen it before because she had never looked at it directly. She had circled it for 15 years. She had analyzed its effects, studied its symptoms, tried to counteract its results, but she had never simply watched it, never turned the full quality of her awareness directly at the thing itself and held it there without flinching. The moment she saw it, not understood it, saw it, something happened that she would later struggle to describe in words. It was as though the belief, having been seen, could no longer operate invisibly, could no longer run its program in the background. It had been brought into the light of clear observation, and in that light, it lost the quality that had given it power. Not its existence, not its history, but its automatic authority, its ability to run her reality without her conscious participation. She fell asleep in that state of clear seeing. And the next morning, something was different, not dramatically different, not magically transformed in a way that would make a compelling story of sudden awakening, but measurably, undeniably different. The neural architecture that had been reinforcing that pattern for 15 years had been exposed to a different quality of observation at the moment of maximum neuroplasticity. And the rewriting that happened through the night had moved in a different direction. She finished the next project she started, not because she had solved the problem, not because the fear was gone, but because the belief that had been running invisibly had been seen. And what has been seen cannot unsee itself. Tell me something in the comments. Has there been a moment in your own life when you watched something clearly, without reacting, without immediately explaining it away, and seeing it dissolved its power over you? What was it that you finally looked at directly? I want to hear what you actually saw. This is not what you think it is. The story of Mira is not a story about a technique. It is not a story about what to think before bed. It is a story about the power of genuine observation, about what happens when you bring the full quality of your awareness to the thing you have been avoiding looking at, right at the moment when the deeper mind is most open to being reorganized by what it sees. And you have been both Mira and the pattern she was avoiding. You have been the one who looks and the one who looks away. But here in this moment, you are choosing to look. Let's go deeper into what you're actually seeing, because there is a layer beneath the quantum mechanics that we haven't reached yet. A layer that the ancient traditions mapped thousands of years before quantum physics existed, and that quantum physics has now arrived at from a completely different direction. And when you see these two maps pointing at the same territory, something becomes undeniable. The ancient traditions, across cultures, across centuries, across the enormous diversity of human spiritual and philosophical inquiry, arrived at a remarkably consistent understanding of what sleep is. Not as rest, not as maintenance, but as a daily return to the source. In the Vedantic tradition, the state of deep dreamless sleep, called sushupti in Sanskrit, was considered not the lowest state of consciousness, but in certain respects the most profound. Not because something extraordinary was happening in it, but because in it, the ordinary construction of the separate self, the ego, the persona, the accumulated story of who you are, temporarily dissolved. And what remained in that dissolution was not nothing. It was awareness itself, pure, undifferentiated, contentless awareness. The witness without an object, the observer before it has anything to observe. The Vedantic sages describe this state as a daily touching of the absolute, a nightly return, however unconscious, to the ground of being that underlies all waking experience. They taught that the deep peace most people feel upon waking from genuinely restful sleep is not just the biological relief of a body that has been repaired. It is the residual quality of having rested, however briefly and unconsciously, in one's own deepest nature. In the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the practice of dream yoga, the deliberate cultivation of awareness during sleep, was considered one of the most advanced and transformative practices available to a human being. Not because dreams contain magical content that could be exploited for gain, but because the sleeping state offered something the waking state made extraordinarily difficult: the opportunity to observe consciousness itself without the distraction of sensory experience and conditioned identity. The Tibetan teachers taught that the moment of falling asleep is structurally identical to the moment of death, that the dissolution of ordinary waking consciousness at the sleep threshold is a miniature version of the Great Dissolution. and that learning to remain aware through that dissolution, to maintain the quality of the observer even as the ordinary self releases its grip, was the most direct possible preparation for the ultimate moment of clear seeing. In the ancient Egyptian tradition, sleep was considered a journey to the duat, the underworld, the realm of the dead, that the soul undertook every night, not as a morbid metaphor, but as a literal cosmological reality. Every night, the sleeping person descended through layers of reality that were normally inaccessible to waking consciousness. Every morning, they returned transformed by what they had encountered in those depths. The priests maintained elaborate practices for navigating the duat consciously, for carrying the quality of the observer into the deepest layers of the night and returning with what had been seen. Now look at what quantum mechanics found. At the quantum level, reality does not exist as determined specific facts. Before observation collapses the probability wave. The ground state of reality is pure potential, a superposition of all possible states simultaneously. What we call physical reality is the continuous result of observation collapsing that potential into specific fact. The ground state of reality is potential. The act of observation is what makes it specific. And the ancient traditions said the ground state of consciousness is pure awareness. The act of identification with a particular self is what makes it conditioned. Two completely different languages, two completely different methodologies, two completely different starting points, arriving at the same fundamental recognition. Beneath the surface of both physical reality and conscious experience, there is a ground state that is not yet specific, not yet collapsed, not yet determined. A field of pure potential. That observation, awareness, is continuously collapsing into the particular reality you experience as your life. And every night in sleep, you return to something very close to that ground state. Every night, the ordinary construction of the conditioned self relaxes its grip. Every night, the neural architecture that has been running your habitual patterns of perception and response becomes maximally plastic. Every night, the quantum openness that is normally suppressed by the classical overlay of conditioned identity becomes available. Every night, you have the opportunity to bring the quality of the observer to that opening and participate consciously in what gets collapsed into the reality you wake up into. Most people never do this. Most people arrive at the threshold of that extraordinary opportunity, carrying the full, unexamined weight of the day. They fall into sleep like falling into forgetting. They return from the night carrying the same patterns, the same beliefs, the same limitations, because nothing in the quality of their observation has been different enough to shift the direction of what gets consolidated. But you are here, and you are willing to look. And that changes everything. Let's go into the practice. This is not a thought exercise. This is not a visualization technique. This is an observation practice, and there is a precise difference. A visualization technique asks you to imagine something different from what is. An observation practice asks you to see more clearly what is. The first is an attempt to impose a new reality. The second is an act of clear seeing that allows reality to reorganize itself around the clarity. The observer state is not something you create, it is something you return to. It is what remains when you stop doing everything else. When you stop analyzing, stop planning, stop rehearsing, stop reacting, stop performing, stop explaining. What remains is awareness itself. The witness, the one who was always watching. Here's how you bring this to the threshold of sleep. Tonight, as you lie down to sleep, do not immediately close your eyes and wait for unconsciousness. Instead, do this. Take one full breath, long and slow, and on the exhale, release the day. Not process the day, not review the day, not analyze or judge or plan. Simply release it. Let it fall away the way water falls from a surface that has no need to hold it. Then, in the space that opens after that release, ask yourself one question, not to answer it, to observe what arises when you hold it. The question is this: what have I been avoiding looking at today? Not what did I do wrong, not what should I have done differently, not what am I worried about. What have I been avoiding looking at? Then watch. Watch without interpretation. Watch without immediately explaining what arises. Watch the feeling that comes before the thought. Watch the sensation in the body before the mind has had a chance to translate it into language. Watch the thing that your awareness wants to flinch away from, and hold it, gently, steadily, without force. In the field of your clear seeing, you are not trying to fix what you see. You are not trying to release it or transform it or process it into something more comfortable. You are simply watching it, the way the sun watches ice, by being present, by being clear, by being the quality of awareness that sees without distorting. And then, from that quality of watching, let yourself fall into sleep, not into unconsciousness, into observation. Let the threshold be crossed not by a mind that is shutting down, but by an awareness that is opening, an observer that is not going anywhere, an awareness that is simply moving from one mode of seeing to another. This is the practice. It is simple. It is not easy. It requires the willingness to look at what you have been avoiding. But here is what you need to know about that willingness. The moment you genuinely bring it, the moment you actually look without flinching at the thing you have been circling, the quality of what happens in the night changes. Not because you have done something extraordinary, but because you have brought the most powerful force available to consciousness, clear, direct, non-reactive observation, to the most neuroplastic, most quantum open, most creatively available state your brain will enter in any given day. What you watch, you change. What you avoid watching controls you. And now you are bringing your watching to the place where it matters most. There is a layer beneath this practice that goes even deeper. And I want to show it to you because here's what most people miss about the observer state, even when they begin to practice it. They think the observer is a technique, a skill to be developed, a capacity to be trained, something you get better at over time through dedicated practice. And while practice does refine the quality of observation, this understanding misses something fundamental. The observer is not something you develop. The observer is what you already are. Watch this carefully. Right now, as you listen to these words, there is something in you that is aware of the words. There is something in you that is aware of your own listening. There is something in you that is aware of your own awareness. That something, that capacity for self-referential witnessing, is not a skill you have cultivated. It is the ground of your being. It is what you are before you are anything else. Before you are your name, your history, your beliefs, your patterns, your achievements, your failures. before you are any of the things you have been told you are or have decided you are. You are the awareness in which all of that arises. Now watch what happens when you apply this to sleep. If the observer is what you fundamentally are, not a capacity you have but the ground of your being, then sleep is not the temporary absence of the observer. Sleep is the observer released from the particular construction of the conditioned self. Sleep is the awareness freed from the specific story it has been running as the waking identity. The ancient traditions were not speaking poetically when they said sleep is a daily return to the source. They were pointing at something precise. In sleep, the constructed self relaxes, the narrative identity loosens, the conditioned patterns of perception and response that constitute your ordinary waking experience become temporarily non-mandatory. And what remains in that relaxation is not nothing, it is awareness itself. The observer before it has a particular self to observe. And here's where this becomes not just philosophically interesting, but practically transformative. If the observer is what you fundamentally are, if it is not a capacity you develop, but a ground you return to, then the practice of bringing the observer state to the threshold of sleep is not a practice of doing something new. It is a practice of recognizing what is already there. It is the act of the awareness that you already are becoming consciously aware of itself at the moment of maximum openness. And when awareness becomes consciously aware of itself at the moment of maximum openness, the direction of what gets consolidated through the night is no longer determined solely by the unconscious momentum of habitual patterns. It is influenced by the quality of the awareness that is present, by the clarity of the seeing, by the frequency of the observer. This is not metaphor. This is the quantum mechanics of consciousness applied to the most neuroplastic state your brain enters every single day. Let me show you something else. Let me take you deeper into the mechanics of this. There is a man named Elias who spent years studying the science of sleep, not as a researcher, not as a practitioner, but as someone who had watched his own life with the kind of unflinching attention that most people reserve for other people's problems. He had read the neuroscience. He understood the glymphatic system, the memory consolidation, the emotional processing functions of REM sleep. He had applied every evidence-based sleep hygiene practice available. He slept 8 hours. He kept a consistent schedule. He created an optimal sleep environment. And yet, every morning he woke up carrying the same weight, the same low-grade anxiety that had been his companion for as long as he could remember, the same subtle sense that something was wrong, something was unresolved, something needed to be attended to but could never quite be identified. He slept well by every measurable standard. He did not wake up rested. One evening, a conversation with a physicist friend shifted something. The friend was describing quantum decoherence, the process by which quantum superpositions collapse into classical states through interaction with the environment. She made an observation that stopped Elias entirely. She said, "The reason quantum systems decohere so quickly in warm biological environments is because they are constantly being observed. Every interaction is a measurement. Every contact with the environment is an observation that collapses the superposition. The quantum openness exists only in the absence of observation. The moment the environment touches the system, the possibilities collapse into fact." Elias heard something in that description that his physicist friend had not intended. He heard a description of his own mind at the threshold of sleep. He had been so thoroughly trained to monitor, analyze, and evaluate his own experience, to be constantly observing in the classical sense of checking and measuring and judging. That even at the threshold of sleep, even at the moment when the deeper mind was opening, he was collapsing the quantum openness with the constant observation of the anxious monitoring self. He was not bringing the observer state to sleep. He was bringing the evaluator state, the checker state, the part of him that was constantly measuring whether things were okay, whether he was okay, whether the world was okay. And that constant measurement was collapsing the quantum openness of the sleeping brain into the same classical patterns it had been running all day. The observer state is not the same as the monitoring state. This distinction is everything. The monitoring state is the anxious watching of a self that is worried about outcomes. It is observation in the service of control. It is awareness deployed as surveillance, and it collapses quantum openness into the patterns of the thing being surveilled. The observer state is the clear, non-reactive, non-interpretive witnessing of what is. It is awareness in its own nature before it has been recruited for any agenda. It is the watching that does not need the thing being watched to be different from what it is. And it creates the conditions for quantum openness to remain available, for the possibility space to stay open long enough for new patterns to emerge. Elias had been monitoring his sleep instead of observing it. He had been bringing the anxious evaluator to the threshold instead of the clear witness. And the difference between those two qualities of attention was the difference between a night that consolidated his anxiety and a night that could have been reorganizing it. When he understood this, not as an intellectual concept, but as a direct observation of what he had been doing, something shifted. Not immediately, not dramatically, but measurably. The quality of awareness he brought to the threshold changed, and what he woke up carrying began gradually and unmistakably to change with it. And you have been both Elias and the pattern he was monitoring. You have been the anxious checker and the clear witness. And right now, in this moment, you are choosing to see the difference. What was the moment you realized you had been monitoring instead of observing, checking instead of watching? When did you first notice the difference between those two qualities of attention in your own life? Drop it in the comments. What you name here, others will recognize in themselves. Look closer. Because there is one more layer beneath this that we haven't reached, and it is the layer that changes everything. The layer that makes all the others cohere into a single, unified understanding of what sleep actually is and what it is actually for. Here it is. Sleep is not something that happens to you. Sleep is something you participate in every single night, whether consciously or unconsciously, whether with the quality of the observer or with the residue of the reactor, whether with the awareness that knows itself as the ground of being or with the constructed self that is trying to maintain its grip even into the darkness. You are always an active participant in your own sleep. The question is never whether you are participating. The question is what quality of participation you are bringing, and here's what that means in practice. The patterns that are running your life, the beliefs that limit you, the fears that constrain you, the habitual responses that keep you in familiar territory, even when familiar territory is no longer serving you. These patterns are not maintained by your waking mind alone. They are consolidated every night by the sleeping brain. They are reinforced in the most neuroplastic, most quantum open state available to your consciousness. They are written and rewritten, strengthened and pruned in the deep, slow wave sleep that restructures your neural architecture every night. And the direction of that writing is not random. It is not purely determined by genetics or history or circumstances beyond your influence. It is influenced meaningfully, measurably, in ways that compound over time by the quality of awareness present at the threshold, by what the observer in you is doing as the gates open, by whether you arrive at that threshold as the reactor carrying the unexamined residue of the day, or as the witness, bringing the quality of clear seeing to the moment of maximum openness. This is not a small thing. This is not a peripheral optimization. This is the mechanism by which the deepest patterns of your reality are continuously being written, and you have been doing it unconsciously for your entire life. Tonight, that changes. Let me give you the second practice. This one goes deeper than the first. You have been practicing the threshold observation, the act of bringing clear watching to the moment of falling asleep. Now I want to show you something that happens in the middle of the night that most people never notice because they are unconscious when it occurs. Every 90 minutes or so, you cycle through the stages of sleep. You move from light sleep through deep sleep and back through lighter sleep into REM. And at the end of each cycle, there is a brief period of near waking, a moment when consciousness rises close enough to the surface that you are almost but not quite awake. Most people roll over and fall back into the next cycle without any awareness of this moment. But this moment is another threshold, another quantum event horizon, another opportunity for the quality of the observer to influence the direction of what gets consolidated. The practice is this: set your intention before sleep, not as a command, not as a demand, not as an attempt to control what happens in the night, but as a quality of awareness that you are choosing to carry, a question you are holding open, an observation you are willing to continue making even in the depths of the night. The intention is not, I want to dream about X. The intention is not, I will remember my dreams. The intention is simply this: I am watching. Whatever arises in the night, I am the awareness that observes it without flinching. I am the witness that does not turn away. That quality of intention, held lightly, without force, without demand, creates a different relationship between your waking consciousness and the sleeping brain. It creates a thread of awareness that runs through the night, not a continuous waking consciousness, not lucid dreaming in the technical sense, though it may sometimes produce that. Simply a quality of orientation, a direction that the awareness is pointed in, an openness that remains available even in the depths of the night. And when you wake in the morning, before you do anything else, before you check your phone, before you review your schedule, before you begin the forward momentum of the day, take 30 seconds to simply notice what you are carrying from the night. Not to analyze it, not to interpret it, not to immediately translate it into the language of your waking concerns. Simply to notice. To watch the residue of the night with the same quality of clear, non-reactive awareness that you brought to the threshold. What you are watching in those 30 seconds is the freshest possible view of the patterns that have been running in the night, the beliefs that were consolidated, the emotional charges that were processed, the neural architecture that was restructured. You are watching the most recent version of your own deep programming before the waking mind has had a chance to overlay it with the familiar story of who you are. And what you watch in that moment with genuine clarity and without flinching begins to change, because what you observe, you change. And nowhere is this more true than at the threshold between the night and the day, when the patterns that have been running in the dark are most visible in the light. Now let's talk about what this means for the specific thing you have been avoiding. Because here is the truth that most people encounter somewhere in the middle of a transmission like this one. The thing that is most important to see is not the general principle. It is the specific application, the particular pattern, the precise belief, the exact thing that has been running in the background of your reality, in the night as much as in the day, that you have been circling without looking at directly. You already know what it is. You have known for longer than you are comfortable admitting. The mind has been very clever about keeping it just out of direct view, giving you enough peripheral awareness of it to feel vaguely uncomfortable, but never quite bringing it into the full light of clear observation where it would have to be seen completely. What is it for you? Is it the belief that you are fundamentally not enough? Not talented enough, not worthy enough, not capable enough, that has been running so long and so deep that it has become invisible? The water you swim in rather than something you can see? Is it the fear that being fully seen, truly, completely, without the careful management of your presentation, would result in rejection so complete that you would not survive it? Is it the story that the life you actually want is available to other people but not to you? That there is some fundamental difference between you and the people who have what you want that makes your wanting it somehow naive or presumptuous? Is it the pattern of self-sabotage that arrives reliably at the moment of potential breakthrough? The sudden crisis, the manufactured obstacle, the inexplicable loss of motivation that always seems to arrive just before the thing becomes real? Whatever it is, and you know what it is, even if you are not yet ready to say it out loud, that pattern is being consolidated every night. It is being written into your neural architecture in the most neuroplastic state available to your consciousness. It is being reinforced by the quantum collapse of possibilities in the direction of what is already familiar, already expected, already believed. And it will keep being consolidated in that direction for as long as you keep arriving at the threshold carrying it without looking at it. The moment you look at it, directly, clearly, without flinching, with the full quality of the observer rather than the reactor, the consolidation changes direction, not because you have fixed it, not because you have resolved it or released it or transformed it through some technique, but because the act of genuine observation changes what is being observed. Because consciousness that sees clearly reorganizes what it sees. Because the observer is not passive, the observer is the most powerful force available to consciousness. And you have been that observer your entire life. You have just been pointing your observation everywhere except at the thing that most needs to be seen. Tonight, you point it there. Let me give you the third practice. This is the deepest one. It is called the night review. It comes from multiple traditions. The Ignatian examen, the Stoic evening review, the Tibetan practice of reviewing the day before sleep. Each tradition arrived at a version of the same practice independently, which tells you something about how fundamental it is. Here's the version that is precise for what we are doing. Before sleep, in the space after the day has been released and before the threshold is crossed, take 5 minutes, only 5 minutes, and review the day not as a judge but as an observer. Not to evaluate what you did well or poorly, not to plan how you will do better tomorrow, not to process the emotions of the day or rehearse the conversations you wish you had handled differently. Simply to observe. To watch the day the way you would watch a film you are seeing for the first time, with genuine curiosity and without already knowing what it means. As you watch, look for one thing specifically. Look for the moment in the day when you looked away. The moment when something arose, a feeling, a recognition, a truth that was trying to surface, and you redirected your attention. Checked your phone, poured a drink, started a conversation, generated a task, did anything except remain with what was arising and watch it all the way down to what it was. Find that moment, hold it in the field of your awareness. And now, here at the threshold, with the gatekeeper loosening and the deeper mind opening, look at it. Look at what you looked away from. Watch it with the quality of the observer, clear, steady, non-reactive, without the need for it to be different from what it is. Watch it until you can see it completely, not until you have explained it, not until you have resolved it, until you have seen it, and then let yourself fall into sleep, carrying that seeing, not carrying the thing itself, the fear, the belief, the pattern. Carrying the quality of observation that has just seen it clearly. Carrying the awareness that looked directly at what you had been avoiding and did not flinch. That quality of awareness carried into the threshold, carried into the most neuroplastic and quantum open state available to your consciousness, is the force that changes the direction of what gets consolidated in the night. This is the mechanism. This is the secret layer beneath sleep that no one told you about. Not because it was deliberately hidden, but because it requires a quality of observation that most people have never been shown how to bring. Because it asks you to look at the thing you have been most carefully avoiding. Because it demands the courage of the genuine witness. The willingness to see what is there without immediately trying to fix it or explain it or make it more comfortable. And here is what I want you to understand about that courage. It is not the courage of someone who is not afraid. It is the courage of someone who is afraid and looks anyway. The observer state does not require the absence of fear or resistance or the desire to look away. It requires only the willingness to remain present with what arises, to hold the quality of watching even when what is being watched is uncomfortable. And that willingness, that single, simple, profound act of remaining present with what is the most powerful thing you can bring to the night. Something in you already knows this. Something in you has always known this. The reason this transmission is landing, the reason something in you is responding to these words with recognition rather than just information, is because you already are the observer. You already have this capacity. You have always had it. It is not something I am giving you. It is something I am pointing at that was always there. You have been watching longer than you realize. You have been the witness beneath the reactor, the clear seeing beneath the habitual response, the awareness beneath the constructed self for your entire life. You have just been pointing that awareness outward, at circumstances, at other people, at the surface of events, rather than inward, at the patterns that are generating those events from the inside out. Tonight, you turn the observer inward. Tonight, you bring the quality of clear seeing to the threshold of the night. Tonight, you participate consciously in the most profound process of reorganization available to a human consciousness. And the reality you wake up into will not be the same as the one you fell asleep from. Not dramatically, not magically, not in a way that bypasses the real work of living, but measurably, incrementally, in the direction of what becomes possible. When the patterns that have been limiting you begin to be seen clearly rather than reinforced blindly. This is the compounding effect of conscious observation at the threshold. Each night that you bring the quality of the observer to the opening, the direction of consolidation shifts slightly. The neural architecture rewrites incrementally in the direction of what is seen rather than what is avoided. The quantum possibilities that are available to the sleeping brain collapse in the direction of the awareness that is present rather than the anxiety that is unexamined. Over days, this is subtle. Over weeks, it becomes noticeable. Over months, it becomes unmistakable. Over years, it becomes the difference between a life that is running on the unconscious consolidation of inherited patterns and a life that is being continuously reorganized by the quality of conscious observation. This is what the ancient traditions were pointing at when they spoke of sleep as a spiritual practice. Not because sleep is magical, because sleep is the nightly return to the ground state of consciousness, the quantum openness, the neuroplastic availability, the dissolution of the conditioned self. And what you bring to that return determines what you take from it. They were not speaking metaphorically. They were speaking with the precision of people who had spent lifetimes observing the relationship between the quality of awareness at the threshold and the quality of the life that emerged from it. And now quantum mechanics has arrived at the same recognition from a completely different direction. The observer participates in the collapse of probability into reality. The quality of awareness at the threshold influences the direction of what becomes actual. What you watch, you change. That's not belief, that's quantum mechanics. Now let's bring this all the way home, because there is one final thing I want to show you before we close. Everything we have explored together in this transmission, the neuroscience of sleep, the quantum mechanics of observation, the ancient understanding of the threshold, the practice of the observer state, all of it points at a single, unified recognition that I want to make sure lands completely. You are not a passive recipient of your reality. You're not someone to whom sleep happens, to whom patterns happen, to whom life happens. You are the observer, the awareness, the ground of being that is continuously participating in the collapse of possibility into actuality. And nowhere is that participation more available, more powerful, more consequential than at the threshold of sleep, the nightly return to the quantum openness from which your reality is continuously being written. The secret layer beneath sleep that no one told you about is not a layer of sleep. It is a layer of you. It is the observer that was always there, always watching, always participating in the construction of what you experience as your life, but doing so unconsciously, unintentionally, without the quality of clear seeing that transforms what it watches. The moment you bring that quality of clear seeing to the threshold, the moment you arrive at the most neuroplastic and quantum open state available to your consciousness, carrying the observer rather than the reactor, the witness rather than the worrier, the clarity rather than the avoidance, the entire mechanism of nightly consolidation begins to work in the direction of what you are capable of, rather than what you have been afraid of. This is not a small thing. This is not a peripheral practice. This is the most fundamental shift available to a human being, because it changes not just what happens in the night, it changes the quality of awareness that is present in the night. And the quality of awareness that is present in the night determines the quality of the reality that is consolidated through it. And the quality of the reality that is consolidated through the night determines the quality of the life that is built from it. You were never meant to look away, not during the day, not at the threshold, not in the night. You were never meant to hand the most powerful moment of your daily reality creation process over to the unconscious momentum of unexamined patterns. You were meant to be here, watching, clearly, without flinching, bringing the full quality of the observer to the full depth of the night. And now you know how. If you find yourself at the threshold tonight and you feel the familiar pull toward looking away, when the noise of the day is still loud and the patterns are pressing in, come back to this. Watch it again from that place of stillness, from the edge of the threshold itself, and let it do what clear transmission does when the conditions are right. And if there is someone in your life who has been circling something they cannot quite look at directly, share this with them. Not as advice, as permission, because when two people are watching the same thing clearly at the same time, the field of observation doubles. And what one person cannot see alone becomes visible in the light of shared witnessing. That is not a small thing. That is how the unseen becomes seen. I want to hear from you. Drop into the comments the one thing, the specific thing, not the general category, the actual specific thing that you have been avoiding looking at. The thing that arises when you ask yourself the threshold question, the thing that has been running in the background of your reality, being consolidated every night, that you have been circling without looking at directly. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. You don't have to make it presentable. Just name it. Because the act of naming it in this field, in the presence of everyone else who is here, doing the same work of looking directly at what they have been avoiding, is itself an act of observation. And what is observed in a field of clear witnessing cannot continue to operate with the same invisibility it has been relying on. Or type these words, I see it now. There is something happening to you every single night that you have never truly been told about. Not because the information doesn't exist, not because science hasn't found it, but because what sleep actually is, what is truly, mechanically, cosmically occurring the moment your conscious mind releases its grip, is so far beneath the surface explanation you were given that most people never think to look for it. You were told sleep is rest, recovery, the body's maintenance cycle, the brain taking out its trash, consolidating memories, running its nightly defragmentation. And all of that is true. All of that is real. But here's what no one told you. That's the surface. That's the thinnest, outermost layer of what is actually occurring when you close your eyes and disappear from the waking world. Beneath the rest, there is a rewiring. Beneath the rewiring, there is a field. Beneath the field, there is something the ancient ones knew and the quantum physicists have now confirmed. Something so fundamental to the nature of consciousness and reality that once you understand it, once you feel it land in your body as truth, you will never be able to lie down at night the same way again. You think you stop watching when you fall asleep. You don't. Something in you stays awake. Something in you remains present, observing, reorganizing, collapsing the patterns you've been too distracted to see during the day. Science has a name for what happens in that space, but the name they gave it buried the truth. It reduced something vast to something manageable. It handed you a surface and called it the whole thing. Tonight, we go beneath the surface. Tonight, We go down through every layer, through the neuroscience that most people never get past, through the quantum mechanics that the neuroscience is sitting on top of, through the ancient wisdom traditions that mapped this hidden territory thousands of years before any laboratory existed. And finally, through to the core, the experiential truth at the center of all of it that has been waiting for your awareness to arrive. What you find beneath the explanation you were given about sleep will not just change how you understand the night, it will change how you understand yourself. What you are, what you are capable of, and what has been happening to you every single night of your entire life without your conscious awareness. The veil between you and this deeper understanding is not thick, it is not impenetrable, it is a membrane, and it dissolves the moment you're willing to look. Let's begin. Start with what you think you know. Start with the surface. Sleep, as you have been taught to understand it, is biological necessity. Humans spend approximately 1/3 of their lives unconscious, and for most of scientific history, this was considered something of an embarrassing inefficiency. The early mechanistic view of the body as machine, found sleep deeply inconvenient. Machines don't need to stop. Machines run continuously until they break. So what was this strange mandatory shutdown doing in an otherwise functional biological system? The surface answer that emerged from decades of sleep research goes something like this. The brain needs to consolidate memories, moving information from short-term hippocampal storage into long-term cortical networks. The body needs to repair tissue, regulate hormones, clear metabolic waste. The glymphatic system, the brain's waste clearance mechanism, is nearly 10 times more active during sleep than during waking hours, flushing out toxic proteins, including the amyloid plaques associated with Alzheimer's disease. Growth hormone is released. The immune system performs critical regulatory functions. Emotional memories are processed and integrated. The brain essentially sorts through the day's experiences, decides what to keep, what to strengthen, what to let fade, and files everything accordingly. This is the surface explanation. This is the layer most people receive and accept as complete. And here's the first thing you need to understand about that surface explanation. It is not wrong, it is just not deep enough. Because here is what the surface explanation doesn't tell you. It doesn't tell you what is actually happening at the level of consciousness during sleep. It describes the biological mechanics, the plumbing, the filing, the maintenance, but it says almost nothing about what the mind is doing when it is no longer constrained by the waking state. It describes the container. It says almost nothing about what is contained. And this is where the first veil lifts. Peel back the biological maintenance explanation and look at what's underneath. What you find is this. Sleep is not just a passive state of reduced consciousness. Sleep is an active state of altered consciousness, a state in which the brain moves through radically different modes of processing that are not available to it during ordinary waking awareness. And these modes of processing are not peripheral to who you